Hello and welcome. This is going to be a 200 word per minute literary dictation, Gaining a Leash on Life, Part 9. Okay, and we will begin. Dogma 6, me as less than perfect. To err is human, to forgive canine. I can remember entering the kitchen that morning, a little tired from the night before, a tiny bit of a headache again from the night before, and now being greeted by the remnants of the night before. The bones of chicken wings, remains of appetizers, even tiny pieces of crust from the pies were strewn from trash to culprit. There he lay, as innocent as could be, belly distended, deep in sleep, seemingly without a care in the world. Bad dog. Well, not really, but he could at least look guilty. As you can imagine, regardless of how cute the bud dog appeared, it was time to wake this sleeping prince. He was in the doghouse, and besides, I was concerned that some of the things he ate may not be very good for him. Oh, and yes, he really needed to be taught a lesson. You know, his nose would be taken to the scraps, my finger firmly shaken, and in my best authoritative voice, I would proclaim, no, bad. That's it, just no and bad, but not bad dog. He really isn't a bad dog. He's just a dog. Bud simply was doing what seemed to be a good thing at the time. So while he may lower his head and give me the please forgive me, I'm so cute look, he really doesn't feel guilty, and that's because he's not human. Lucky dog. Humans are certainly unique. We make mistakes, and then we have this wonderful capacity for beating ourselves up forever for these mistakes. Guilt, a characteristic of the human condition. How undog-like. Perhaps at this point you are saying to yourself, yeah, and your point is, doesn't it make sense that when you screw up, you should feel guilty? Let me ask you to take a moment and really stop and think before responding to the following question. Ready? Have you ever chosen to screw up? Have you ever chosen to make a mistake? I can imagine that your almost automatic response is to say, of course. But did you really? Did you really choose to screw up? I'm not suggesting that you didn't foul up the works or somehow make a mistake, maybe even a huge one. But was that what you chose to do? Less than perfect, but not guilty about it. I bet on closer inspection you will see that at any one time you choose to act in ways that seem, at least at that moment, to be the best choice available. It only becomes a mistake later, after you have time to review your choices from a different perspective. Humans have the wonderful ability to think, if only I had known. We make great Monday morning quarterbacks and backseat drivers. You know the maxim hindsight is 20/20, but hindsight is a silly exercise if we only use it to make ourselves feel shameful and guilt-ridden over our decisions that we made without the benefit of such hindsight. The truth of the matter is that we make the best decisions we can with the information and conditions present at that moment. There is no hindsight or better options apparent. Then why feel guilty over doing the best we could at that moment? So do we really select mistakes? Not really. Are our decisions sometimes viewed by ourselves and others as mistakes? Absolutely. That will never change. That's being fallible. That's being human. I know it can be an inconvenience, but our fallibility is a fact, so let's accept it and move on. Now, please don't get me wrong. I am not suggesting that we shouldn't learn from these experiences. I am not suggesting we shouldn't vow not to repeat them. What I'm suggesting is that learning from past mistakes and committing to make different choices in the future can occur and probably will occur more effectively without the additional needless guilt that we place upon ourselves. Time spent in the doghouse is useful only to the degree that we reflect upon our choices, understand the conditions that led to our selections, and attempt to develop alternative responses should we find ourselves in the same position in the future. To be placed in and remain in the doghouse beyond this point is simply counterproductive. Bad dog? Not really. Just a dog doing a dog thing. He may pay the price of his action throughout the day. I'm not sure if that pepper shooter is going to sit well. He may think even learning from this experience and begin to think twice before indiscriminately attacking the trash, but at least he won't need help with resolving his shame and guilt. To be a dog. Perhaps there are lessons to be learned. A Budism, lessons on acceptance of a less than perfect me. You know, Bud was moving really slowly that day. I think the peppers were a bit too much. Thankfully, he'll survive and will most certainly party another day. But maybe, just maybe, this day of discomfort will help him to become a more discerning trash picker or a non-trash picker. But the lesson I learned that day, watching my poor old partied out Bud, wasn't to be discerning in what I could eat, something I still need to learn, but to move on to the next moment and leave the sackcloth and ashes behind. After I woke him and pointed out the errors of his way, he did provide me the obligatory ear-down, sad look, but it was short-lived. He moved on. He came to me to have his head rubbed. He barked at the cat. He stretched out in the sun. In other words, he went on with his life. He continued on without a single incident of shame or guilt motivated treat. Mistakes happen. Decisions that seemed right can be re-evaluated and re-identified as poor only after the fact. We can and perhaps would be wiser to learn from them. But learning from our mistakes doesn't require us to feel bad about ourselves. In fact, such feelings of shame and guilt can actually interfere with our ability to learn. So accepting the less than perfect may be achieved if we practice the following. Okay, and that will be the end of Take 9. Part 9, and we will continue into part 10 on the next video. I'll see you there.